Hi, guys. Okay, so this is your follow-up meeting to the meeting we just had. So I'm just posting this video for anyone who isn't able to get on during the day or, got distracted by Ivan like me. Okay, so I wanted you guys to talk about these four topics here. So I'm just going to kind of give you a laydown of my thoughts because that's really... oh, sorry, guys. I should have put no... All right, whatever. Okay. So the first question is about gender roles. I think we all kind of know what gender roles really are. If you're not really aware, there are some stereotypical ideas that come with genders. So when people think of a man, they think strong, independent, hardworking, breadwinner, the person who takes care of the household. When they think of a woman, people tend to think childcare, home, taking care of everyone, gentle, emotional. So the gender roles, that's how they were typically, especially in the beginning of the 1920s, where people were really filling into those roles. As we see in this book, gender roles start to change. And, we live in 2020, so we know how much they have changed since this story. But I want to talk about how each of these characters sort of displayed traditional gender roles and then break them. So the first character here on my list is the narrator, Nick. He definitely displays some traditional gender roles. He's working for himself. He's living independently in New York. His family is nowhere near him, so that is very strong masculine behavior. But in the way that he breaks gender roles is, I don't know if you noticed, but at the end of chapter 2, when he goes to the city, accidentally has a party with Tom and his mistress, he ends up sleeping with a man. If you didn't notice, it's Mr. McKee. Nick doesn't realize he's doing it. He goes to sleep really drunk at this guy's apartment, and we are led to believe he wakes up there the next day. Yeah. Anyway. Okay, so Tom. Tom is the stereotypical masculine man. He is the sole breadwinner for his household. He makes all the rules. His wife has no say whatsoever. And unfortunately, cheating on his wife really does fit into the role of men do what they want. The way he breaks gender roles, I wouldn't say he does, to be honest. I think he kind of fits that role perfectly as the example of what a man used to be. But it's becoming outdated in the story. As we talked about in our group discussion, Daisy is, in her mind, an independent woman. She can think for herself. She certainly starts to tell Nick about their lives and how things have been bad for her. So that is independent. But the rest of her isn't very progressive. She does not work. She stays home to take care of her family, but she doesn't even do that because they have a nurse that takes care of their children for them, or their child. And she stays with this man, so she doesn't break that either, because he is cheating on her. So it would have been, during this time, very, very frowned upon to get a divorce. So Daisy stays with him, and that's really because of what society expected. Jordan, just in her name, should be a surprise to you in terms of breaking gender roles. Jordan is a more masculine name for sure. You can't really tell if it's a girl's name or a boy's name. We call that ambiguous. And she is very independent. She's a famous golfer. She makes money playing golf, which is a sport mostly men play. Even today, in today's world, it's more a man's sport. So she's definitely breaking the gender roles. Myrtle, she's almost like Daisy's opposite. Yes, she is also married to a man named Wilson, but she doesn't care. She's cheating on him with Tom. Very happy to be doing it. Has a whole apartment and a life in the city. So in the way that she breaks her marital vow, she is breaking gender roles. But in her relationship with Tom, she falls back into being the subservient. Tom actually hits her in chapter 2, and Myrtle doesn't really do much about it, which is pretty messed up. Mr. and Mrs. McKee are like this, they're there for like 2 seconds, and their whole purpose is to bring up this idea of gender boundaries and how easy it is to break them, because Mr. McKee goes home with Nick. And Mrs. McKee is much more interested in the women in the scene. She talks about their outfits, how beautiful they are. It's actually kind of strange. Okay. And the second question that we didn't really get to talk about is The Great Gatsby is a text that speaks volumes about the 1920s society. Describe the people of the 1920s based on their actions throughout chapters 1 through 3, and consider and describe each topic on the text. So, what's important to people in the 1920s? Values? Having a lot of money. Sorry if you can hear my son, he just woke up. Having a lot of money and having it be old money, where you come from a whole line of people who just make a ton of money all the time. That's very important to them, and that everybody can see it in the way that you dress, in the way you behave, in the decisions you make in your life. American dream. What is their American dream? To have that beautiful mansion by the water. That's something that's talked about so much in chapters 1 through 3. To be able to really financially stand on your own 2 feet. And then the author's perceived perception on people of the times, I would say pretty judgy. Based on the way Nick talks about the people in the book, and he doesn't seem to like anyone except for Gatsby, that kind of gives you an indication that he doesn't really care for the way society was going in the 1920s. Even though it did have its perks, like women fighting for their rights. Okay. Nick finally attends a legendary Gatsby party in chapter 3, but readers only get a few lines of text where they meet Gatsby and describe Gatsby as he's presented to the reader. Pay attention to diction choice. Gatsby's favorite turn of phrase is to call people old sport, like they have been friends for a really long time. It also comes across like a very old person would say that. Like my grandpa would say that to some young person. So he's meant to have this personality that's very mature. We're supposed to perceive it as mature. But what he says, in the few lines that he does speak, he seems unsure of himself. Like the person that he is, he's trying too hard. You're going to see that develop as we continue to read his feelings. We know he's very interested in some situation that he needs Jordan's help with, but we don't really know too much about it. And finally, readers have had 3 chapters to get to know Nick as the narrator. At the end of chapter 3, Nick asserts, "I am one of the few honest people that I have ever known. What do you think? Is Nick a reliable narrator? Why or why not?" We talked about this in our group discussion today, and I think we're kind of on the fence. We know Nick says he's not a judgmental guy, but he is being very judgmental of all of these people. He tells us that he's super honest, so it seems like that is true because he's telling you everything that happened. And the way he speaks, his diction and language, makes him... Shh, Hudson. Say hi, Hudson. This is my dog. Stop. The way that he talks to people makes him sound quite intelligent, and that does make him seem more trustworthy. I would say the things that make us unsure if he's reliable are, like I said, the way he judges other people, but also the fact that we know, which you didn't know before, that he's telling this story to his therapist. So we know that he has some kind of mental break that causes him to have some struggles, so we just don't really know what we can trust. So we have to kind of see where that goes as we keep reading. I'm going to post this video right now so you can watch it all weekend, and then I'm going to post a video of me going through the questions that you have answered for all 3 chapters, kind of talking about anything I thought was super significant, and then I'll be posting some analysis for you. Yeah. All right. Bye, guys.